Hey, deserving listeners, Ultimatum. Let's watch.
I'm sorry that I hurt you. It's very confusing for me.
It's the most uncomfortable experience I've ever had. Whenever I'm comfortable, I just run. I walk away. But I want to give this everything so that I can be as informed as possible.
Okay, so the theme of this reaction video series is, or one of the themes is Dana and Megan's claim in their write-up on todumb.com that Dana is avoidant attachment style and Megan is preoccupied anxious. And of course I can't know, but if I'm using it as a jumping off point, what she said right there is absolutely right down the middle avoidant. So we'll say that. And the conceptualization I've had up until this point has been that Dana is, in all likelihood, if I were to assess her, or someone like her, I should say, then I think I would probably assess them as preoccupied, anxious, maybe with an avoidant streak in them. But it's interesting because if we only saw Dana and Megan, then I think it would be easier for me to conceptualize or imagine a scenario in which I would conceptualize someone like Dana as avoidant. But with Mel, it was different. So it doesn't really matter. And it's also not any better or worse. I mean, they both have their pros and cons, avoidance and anxious attachment. But anyway, so she's saying, normally I run, so I don't want to do that right now. And they're having a post. Well, they haven't broken up. Megan said, I'm in love, and we had sex the whole time. And yeah, I know I was condemning you and making you out to be the bad guy and judging you for much lesser involvement with Mel, seemingly. But whatevs, and let's move on with our relationship. So it's like Megan did everything other than break up with Dana. And so I wonder if, I didn't say this when I was watching those videos, but I wonder if Megan actually wants to break up with Dana, but doesn't have the assertiveness to do so or even know how to access that. I don't know. Because the way that Megan was talking to Dana, it didn't sound like someone that was trying to continue a relationship with someone. It seemed like someone that was saying, because it was almost the exact same conversation as, or the exact same disclosures. Haley and Megan both disclosed to their partners the same sorts of things, you know, the ongoing sex, the connection, the being in love. Whereas Haley said, and we're breaking up. And Megan was like, what's for dinner? And it was cold the way Megan said it. Now, you know, maybe they've had some warmth. Let's see what happens here. And I'm not saying that Megan needs to have warmth, but if I were Dana, I would want some warmth.
No questions, no confusion, no ifs, nothing. I want to be sure of everything that I believe and feel.
This is hard shit.
The hardest.
You know, I'm so happy to be with you. I feel like you're my home, my comfort. I didn't realize how much I missed it. I miss you so much.
Okay. Yeah, Megan, in the edit anyway, seems all over the map, which is fine. People can be all over the map if they want to be, or if that's how they are. Plus, it's edited. Plus, we don't really, or I don't really know how Megan feels really. I would only know if I could actually have a longer conversation with someone in her shoes. But it is all over the map, right? I think literally the night before this one, or maybe 2 nights, maybe 2 nights before this one, Megan was in bed with Haley, professing how much they were in love with each other, having been together for 3 weeks and cuddling and having sex and being connected and having intimacy and like, oh my God, I feel so great with you. And, you know, can you have that experience with 2 people, or can you be confused? Can your mind change? Can you come back to Dana and say like, oh, wait, what happened? Is it kind of a whirlwind? Yeah, but I don't know. Haley, her feelings are more consistent. Now, maybe Haley will change her mind too. Maybe, especially if she learns about Megan's. I don't know. I just don't know what's happening.
I straight up lost hope.
We know.
I'm not here to like justify like what I did, but I guess like I just wonder if like I didn't have those encounters with you, if I would have had what I had with Haley, like sexually.
That's what bothers me, is that I think that's exactly true. The Megan I know would have never done what you did.
Whether or not that's preoccupied, anxious, or not, in terms of attachment orientation, it is a theme that she has exhibited, Dana has exhibited, and she's also talked about possible enmeshment with her mom and that blurring of boundaries, lack of differentiation. We are the same. And there's a lot of linguistic choices that Dana makes along those lines. I don't even recognize, now that you're not in love with me and we're not together, I don't even who are you? Are you a different person? Have you been taken over by an alien? I mean, she wasn't really, but it felt that way to her, right? And now she's like, I know that's not true. So it's that kind of language around enmeshment. It's not done on purpose. It's done from experience. It's done from the way things feel. It's done from the way things need to be for the person, because it's more comforting that way. But yeah, so I don't know what Megan is talking. It sounds like Megan is saying, I would not have had, let's rewind it, but I think Megan is kind of saying I would not have even had sex with Haley if it weren't for the fact that you blew me off at the pool. Is that what they're saying?
I straight up lost hope.
We know.
I'm not here to like justify like.
Right, I want to break this down. So I straight up lost hope, and I'm pretty sure she's referring to the pool where there was, at the very least, just an awkward moment, and we heard from Dana saying like, well, I didn't want to interfere. I didn't want to bulldoze. I wanted to give you your space. That's why I didn't wave or come over there. Plus, from my understanding, Megan didn't wave or go over there. It was just two exes seeing each other at a pool and going like, oh my God, what are we supposed to do? And neither one of them reached out to the other one, but they had completely different conclusions, right?
What I did, but I guess like I just wonder if like I didn't have those encounters with you, if I would have had what I had with Haley, like sexually.
Right. I'm worried about Megan in her ability to, in the moment and also reflecting back, have any sense of who she is and what she wants, what she needs. There's a lot of evidence pointing towards she just doesn't know yet. And it's of no fault of hers. It probably has to do with being raised a certain way. But I don't know. Because in this moment, so again, just 2 nights ago, she's like, I'm in love with you, you're the best. And maybe she wasn't really in love with Haley, who knows? But meaning that it wasn't coming from her true self and more of a reaction to the scenario. I don't know. I mean, it certainly looked real. But then 2 days later, she's with Dana. She's just like, oh, that whole thing happened because of the pool thing, And that might be true. Certainly it was a factor in all likelihood. But to just think like, yeah, all of that love and connection and intimacy and like togetherness that Haley and I had was just because you seemingly to me blew me off at the pool.
That's what bothers me, is that I think that's exactly true. The Megan I know would have never done what you did.
Now, to Dana's credit, from her perspective, that would be a conclusion, especially if Megan is talking like this right now, because Dana hasn't seen the footage that we've seen. From Dana's perspective, she hears last night, or maybe earlier today or I think last night, Megan's like, we had sex the whole time. Dana's like, what? I didn't even know you had sex once. And we had a connection, and I'm in love with her. And so Dana is just, what is happening, right? She starts to become distressed, which is understandable. She panics, calls her mom, crying. This is the next day, I believe. And so from Dana's perspective, she's thinking, and the whole time Megan's like, well, I'm back with you now, so we're going to move into the future. So from Dana's perspective, she's thinking, what happened there? Like, it doesn't make any sense. There has to be some reason for that. Now, part of that is that enmeshment of it can't be because you don't like me. It can't be because you like someone else, because we are one, right? That kind of need. But it also is just confusing because from her perspective, she has no knowledge of all that we have seen, right? Because there was throughout the weeks just a lot of what looked to be legitimate intimacy and connection and love, the way that they were talking. Anyway.
You didn't have to go like invest in someone else. You didn't have to go have sexual relationships with someone else. You just threw it all away and effed off and didn't care that like you had committed to an experience that involved a 3-week span of time with me after this. You just thought about yourself.
I really don't understand the kind of arguments that they make, the assertions, these statements. Dana, you had sex too. Plus, that's the whole point of the ultimatum thing, is that you get together and might get together. So Dana's telling her, and they both do this to each other, because Megan, for the whole 3 weeks, was condemning Dana for having a connection and having sex. Meanwhile, she was having sex. So Dana's like, you didn't have to do that. Why did you do that to me? Like, you were both doing it. Plus, that's the point of the show. You were seeing what the trial marriage was like to gain clarification. You didn't cheat on each other.
It was a test and you failed.
I don't want you to invalidate my experience. I feel like I had a lot of growth and I had a genuine connection with somebody.
And then they talk about growth. I don't know. It could feel like something happened. And she's saying there was a test and you failed. Well, then you both failed, right? I feel like I'm missing something.
You did have growth.
And like, yes, it led to like sexual relations, but that wasn't the basis of my connection.
That doesn't make it better. You opened your heart to someone. Actually, the worst part. It makes me so sad.
I guess like I'm kind of confused.
Now that part is a difference, seemingly. I mean, Dana certainly opened her heart to Mel, but it seemed like, especially toward the end of the 3 weeks, that Dana was not wanting to continue things with Mel, whereas Mel did, right? And you could see if Dana was even more on the fence about that, I think Dana would have played around with that a little bit more. But, even when she was in the full, fun, all-encompassing relationship with Mel, just that all-encompassing young love kind of, or early love kind of thing, Dana still held fast with a boundary of like, well, I want to talk to Megan, and I'm not going to go to that extent. We've had a great connection. This has been really great, but essentially, I want to go back to Megan. So that is different. Whereas Megan was talking, they didn't say explicitly that Megan and Haley were going to be together post-trial marriage, but it was everything aside, everything else was being said aside just from that last statement.
Because it's like you had sexual stuff with Mel. It might not have been every single thing like what Haley and I did, but like you were still sexual with Mel too.
Yeah, I'm glad that Megan is making that point. I mean, everyone has different definitions. There's different cultural or religious or just personal definitions of what lines mean, right? Is it okay to fantasize about someone else occasionally? Is it okay to make out with someone? Is it okay to do everything except for this particular base being established? If we're using baseball as the measurement, everyone's free to do that. But at the very least, in terms of the way that I culturally think, is that the difference isn't really there. Although we don't know the what base Mel and Dana got to, but it seemed like at least third. You know what I mean? And it sounds like for Mel and Haley it was home. But to me, but that's just me. That's just my cultural sense of things. If my wife went to third base with someone as opposed to home base, there's really no difference to me. It's all sweaty, naked, stuff. I don't know why sweat's involved, but you know, point is maybe just get a fan or anyway. Point is that, but that's just me. So for them, it might be different. But it sounds like for Megan, it is more along the lines of what I'm saying. I'm just like, well, okay, you might not have fully gone all the way to home base, but you did do a lot of things with Mel, and so I don't see much of a difference there.
You know,
I mean,
and you had an emotional connection with Mel too.
But it was not sexual like you. Kissing and stuff is not like, it's not like that. It was a comfort thing. Less than a let's it's just different.
Okay, I could see that. This is the first time we've heard clarifications, and I trust Dana actually around this. I honestly, I trust both of them at this point, to be honest. And so, yeah. And, you know, from the edit, it could look a different sort of way. A comfort, well, I don't know. The making out, I mean, maybe Dana would say, yeah, as I was making out with Mel, and even as we were rolling around and doing like second, third base stuff, it wasn't like, oh my God, I'm in love with you, I'm gonna spend the rest of my life with you. It was like a comfort thing and a fling, a temporary thing. And I don't know how Mel was taking it, but for me, it was always with the sense of this is temporary. And if Mel wasn't up for it, it didn't really bother me. And I didn't want to go. There were times when Mel actually wanted to go further, and I was like, no, that's more of a special place that I want to reserve for Megan. So all that could be true, but it doesn't necessarily. I mean, I think it, and I think they are. I think Megan is bringing this up, which is good. Or, well, I think the two of them are clarifying this, which is good, in that they both did a lot of stuff sexually. They both had a lot of connection. They both talked about love stuff, but particularly Megan and Haley. Did Dana say? No, Dana didn't say love. But there is a key difference in that for Megan, it was in love. And, you know, regardless of, and as evidenced of that love and connection, Megan was willing to go all the way. Now, maybe for Megan, she's just like, well, I would have gone all the way anyway, because it's just fun to do that. But for the two of them, it sounds like there is meaning on that threshold, right? So that is a difference. Now, what does that mean to the two of them, and how do they move forward? I don't know, right? If I were Dana, and especially if I saw that scene, that final night with Haley and Megan, if I were Dana, I would have serious questions about Megan's love, because if love can be that quickly changed or applied to different partners. Now, maybe for Megan, she's more polyamorous. Maybe she's discovering that, more able to be in love with two people at one time. There are people like that for sure. It's hard to know the percentage, but a fair percentage of people are totally capable of that. Maybe we all are to some extent. Anyway, romantically. Anyway, so I'm rambling, but if I were Dana, I would, you know, I wouldn't condemn Megan like you jerkface, but I would just have a lot of questions, and I'd want to move forward kind of slowly, just to reestablish some stability and some trust. Not that Megan did something wrong, like, because Megan didn't cheat, because they were both seemingly, at least on paper, saying it's okay to get together with our person. But the falling in love part, yeah, and maybe Megan could legitimately say from the bottom of her heart and convince Dana, I was just kind of swept up in the moment. It didn't look that way to me.
I need surety that you're not gonna turn your back on me, give up on us. Like, you're riding for me no matter what's going on, because you know who I am and you know what we have.
There's an interesting word, surety. Is that a word? Is this like fix a hoe? Surety. Oh, it is. Wait. A person who takes responsibility for another's performance or an undertaking. For example, they're appearing in court or the payment of a debt. So, yeah, I don't think that's what she meant by that. I think she meant certainty, which is fine. You know, I make up words sometimes, or I certainly mess up words sometimes, but I was distracted. Let's rewind.
I need surety that you're not gonna turn your back on me, give up on us. Like, you're riding for me no matter what's going on, because you know who I am and you know what we have.
As much as I want to show you that like I can be that person, I need you to know that if you hurt me, I'm not going to be that person.
Okay. That sounds like Megan is not trusting of Dana given their pasts. So it's hard to say what that exactly means. I think if we've heard from Megan say that she has an ongoing resentment, which makes sense that at the drop of a hat, Dana will threaten breaking up, right? That avoidant impulse, and would, in a pinch, just say, I'm breaking up with you, and hope that Megan will pursue that kind of thing. And so Megan's saying, I think at least a good portion of that, it's like, if that any of that happens again, I can't go through that, then we're done. But so, yeah. Without a couples therapist, I can't imagine it not happening again. Though any kind of pattern in a relationship is going to happen again without some kind of intervention. Now, sometimes you need a couple therapists. Sometimes you can just do it on your own with some other way. But if you've ever been in a long-term relationship with even a little bit of conflict, which they almost always have, you know this. And I say this partially out of just lowering expectations, but also validating, because a lot of couples will think there's something wrong with them, and there's not. The vast majority of conflict, according to research, does not get resolved, which seems weird, right? You'd think like even healthy relationships, you'd think, well, they resolve their problems, right? They have a problem, a conflict, they resolve it, and they don't do that again. Nope. Vast majority of even healthy couples, the conflicts they get in, they repeatedly get in the same exact conflict. And so, you know, you can see it however you want to see it, but one way to see it is like, well, that's what you get. You know, if you want closeness and love and intimacy, you know, there's 97% good and 3% bad, and you just run up against those same things. And it usually doesn't have anything to do with one person being bad or both people being bad. It's almost always a misunderstanding, and the misunderstanding is often always fueled by the individuals having mild to severe, you know, some sort of degree of trauma relationally growing up that causes them to react in a way in the relationship to misperceive and overreact. And then it leads to misunderstandings, and then people are off to the races, even though both people love each other. So it sounds like they're dealing with that very normal thing, but it also, the words that Megan is using doesn't sound encouraging, because when people are at that statement level where they're just like, if you hurt me again, I'm not going to be that person. If you hurt me again, I'm done. And that can be a good thing to realize. It can be a good thing to state if that's true, but the likelihood that it's not going to happen again isn't very high.
Yeah.
And I'll throw this in for good measure, that almost all the time, because people don't know anything else to do, they'll just say to themselves, I just won't do that again. Next time I have that impulse, even if they recognize that they did something wrong, which is almost never the case, honestly, but even if they do, they will say, well, I just won't do that again. But you will do it again. All right, well, let's adjourn there. Everyone out there, please take care of yourself, because you deserve it. You really, really do.